Hey everybody, Lawler here, enjoying my Tuesday off, technically Wednesday for you guys when this video comes out, but while I was sitting back and watching some of these teams compete, I realized that the actual main event starts this weekend, and there's a couple rules that may be difficult for those to understand about how the tiebreaker system works, what the new point structure is going to be, and how they're kind of divvied out, as well as the new roster rule for the 3/4 rule instead of the 2/3 rule like it used to be. That's what this video is going to be about, so let's break it down. But before we do that, if you guys want to support the content, easiest way to do so, down in the description below, you can find all the social media links that are displaying over here. Make sure you guys go give those a like and a follow, and while you're down there, if you guys enjoy the content, make sure you guys give the video a thumbs up, as well as hit subscribe, and turn on notifications to support the content. So everybody, for this video, the easiest thing to do, and a link to this will be found in the description. This is the official rule page for the championship series for season X. The overview of what today's video is going to be is kind of a simplistic side, is going to be breaking down how it actually plays out in the sense of what the tournament is, how we're focusing on the fall split, the rules that apply to it when it comes to what you can and can't do with your rosters, as well as how the points are going to be associated to the first split, so these guys can get their points into the World Championship and the Major and all that kind of stuff. And then also the tiebreakers, which are something I still don't necessarily like, but also understand. I was watching Gibbs's video on it about how it's based off of Major League Baseball, which kind of makes sense because of how many matches these guys are going to be playing, and they're trying to reward consistency over an extended period of time. I'm going to try to break this down into layman's terms. It is a lot of information as always, but again, with RLCS X now being started, hopefully you guys are enjoying the consistent content, as well as the fact that more is going to be happening, as well as viewing parties on the weekends and all that kind of stuff. So a whole lot of Rocket League to watch and digest. First things first is the schedule. For those unaware, every season has 3 splits. We're going to focus on only the first split, which is the fall split. That has technically already started. In the European region, as it shows for Split 1, Regional 1, there are open qualifiers, which means anybody could have went and signed up. I will actually probably be playing in the North American qualifiers for giggles, because why not? Also, one of the main events goes down on my birthday, so maybe we'll do a watch party or something fun for that, which I'm kind of scared of based on how you guys have been acting lately. Good scared, but still scared. So EU regional qualifier ended up starting. It's now going into day 3 technically, today on the 29th. Now the major thing to note for these qualifiers is how the RLCS and RLRS teams are involved. Because teams have proven their worth over the past season in RLCS 9, they have to be rewarded in some capacity. So the way they're doing this, even though they're being open qualifiers, is RLCS teams get a automatic bye to the 4th day, while rival series teams get an automatic bye to the 3rd day. So we are now entering the 3rd day today, the 29th, and you're going to see the guys that have made like top 128 and etc. going up against the rival series teams. After that, whoever is winning out of that, our top 32, is then going to be joining the RLCS teams. And then we get into the main day, and because the first split is a Swiss style where a 1-0 team will play a 1-0 team, a 2-0 team will play a 2-0 team, that is a ton of matches that have to be played out. So 4 days dedicated to it, 2 weekends worth of just Europe, which is pretty sick. We then jump over to North America. You can then see it's going to be starting on August 10th. This is the one I'm supposed to be playing in, I think, with Phantom Ace, Pluto, and Gubbery, I think. Whether I play or not, we'll find out. It depends if I'm busy. But the way that this ends up working then is the same situation. First qualifier, it's open to everybody who signs up in North America, as long as you're 15 and age restrictions and all that kind of stuff and in the right region. After they make their way through this, they'll probably break down to the top 256. From here, 256 down to 128. With the 128, this is where the rival series teams that have an automatic bye will play. And then they go to the RLCS teams, exact same thing. Swiss style. 1-0, 1-0 versus 2-0, 2-0, 2-1 versus 2-1, and moving on from there, again, over the course of 4 days. And then we have, at the exact same time, without details specifically, these details will be coming in the future, and I'll put more information on that, is after they kind of figure out how they want to do it, they're going to be alternating weekends, essentially, where one weekend is North America, Europe, for the splits for the regional events, and then the other side is going to be the grid. And the grid is a little bit different for those that don't know and haven't watched. Go check out the videos. I'll try to link those somewhere up top if I remember. Otherwise, I'll try to put those down in the description. But the grid is the exact same thing, but it's based upon divisions. So there's 3 divisions, Division 3, 2, and 1. And you have to be Grand Champ and a certain rank. And in those divisions, you basically grind for the chance to promote into the next division. They go for a month. First one is going to be starting on August 6th and August 7th for respective regions between Europe and North America. This is a $10,000 tournament that has 16 teams, I think, playing in like a double elimination bracket. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But what's different here is these will not be on the main Rocket League Twitch channel. Psyonix has decided to give the organizations and the teams the broadcasting rights to the matches. So if you're, for example, Space Station Gaming, and you have a ton of content creators and some unique takes on how to do memes or whatever, Psyonix has now allowed Space Station Gaming, Energy, and everybody else to basically take how they want to approach broadcasting their matches, whether they be doing it with a game show, more casual, more serious with sweaty play-by-play. Like, they can have this promoted in any way they want. They can let their creative juices flow. Whether they do that on their own Twitch channel, whether they hire someone to do it, whether they give it rights to a different production, like, they can do whatever they want. They have all the rights to do so. The only scary thing with that is they only broadcast their team. And there's a lot of complications with this. First and foremost, for those that don't know, who have never spectated or done like casting and stuff, there's only 10 spectator spots available, or 10 spots available in general in a lobby. You've got 3 for each team, so that's 6. So you now have 4 spots to actually do a full production. The frustration with this is if you are trying to have 2 broadcasting teams, so say Space Station and Energy are playing each other, you have to get whoever is handling the broadcast from Space Station there too, and whoever's the 2 handling it from Energy, to find a way to communicate but still work independently for their own selfish benefits. It's a really weird situation that these guys are trying to have to coordinate. And if you're a commentator and Psyonix wants you to remain unbiased, if you're broadcasting specifically for one team, it's very difficult to not develop a bias for production that is for that team. It's a really weird scenario. I'm not sure how this one's going to play out. I don't know if Psyonix actually fully thought this kind of situation out, but I do like the fact that other than a massive storm going on outside, yeah, it's coming down good out there. Might have to go outside. But back to what I was talking about. The issue with this is I do like that they're trying to allow these organizations to kind of create their own content. But the important thing is what I've said at the very beginning is this is the first time in a very long time that organizations, players, commentators, community, whoever, knows the exact dates for like the next year. Obviously, we haven't gotten details about the splits and all that kind of stuff for Split 2 and etc. But like, we know all the regional events, all the grid dates, everything that is associated to the fall season. We know. We have all the information. It's already public, which I think is awesome. There's 2 purposes of that. Not only does it allow us to kind of plan and prep and understand what we want to do, like say I get picked up by a broadcasting team, I can go to them and say, okay, I'm going to produce your show for your team. It's going to be this. We're going to do trivia Q&A. We're going to do a way to interact with community. Like, we're going to do like a pre-show or something before we cast the games to make sure that we get a extended broadcast that meets like a minimum retention area. I go and I push that to them. All that stuff ends up playing out. But the difficulty is if they don't perform well, it creates some kind of issues. But either way, for teams that really want to go all in on this, they have the capability to do and make something because they now have the time to plan it, which is pretty sick. Initially, I assume it's going to be really rough. Out of the gate, I think the grid is going to be super rough. Just based upon what I've dealt with recently. The fact that I don't think a lot of these teams have ever had to do this. It's something different. So it'll be interesting to see how teams tackle this. I think Team Liquid, I've casted Valorant for Team Liquid. They've done show matches in the past. I think they'll be able to handle it really well. But for teams without this kind of experience, it's going to be a new one. Should be interesting to see how it plays out. On the other side of that as well, we still don't have any information on OCE region or South American region based upon how their splits are associated, how they're going to earn points, how their teams make it to the World Championship or majors. Like, we have no idea any of that information yet. That's still a thing. In the point structure, there's some unique concepts to this. The first thing, super easy to do math. Everything is at a 0 except for the last one. And the reason why, and credit to Gibbs on kind of coming up with this, is it is a very clear indication if you have a odd number or a different number other than 0 at the end of your points, that means that team has won an event. It's a very easy way to tally up who is winning what. I think it's super smart. It's a really, really simple way. It also details that for majors are just worth double points. I think that's also really sick. It still adds the gravitas of a major, an international event. Everybody is here to compete. It's a big deal. So also really sick for that. Just don't know how they're going to do international events with COVID right now. I have no clue whatsoever. That is a lot. I don't know if you guys heard that. But if my power goes out in the middle of this, I'm going to be big sads. But I got to hurry up this video so I can go play in the rain. But yes, majors, double points, big deal. Love that. So this is how the points break down. Very similar to if you've ever played like Mario Kart Grand Prix. I think that's the exact same way that Gibbs does it, but it makes perfect sense to me, where based upon how you place, obviously as you get towards the top, the gap starts to spread more and more. This is pretty common practice in any league play or tournament play series over extended periods of time. More details on how Split 2 and Split 3 are going to be announced. I think this is cool because it does nod that because splits are closer to the World Championship, they should be weighted most likely a bit heavier because there is also less teams involved. So pretty sick when it comes down to the wire. The teams that are still in that point of contention are being rewarded for it. The one thing that I wanted to know, how they're going to reward grid points, which is based upon how you perform in these double elimination 16-team tournaments. Whoever has the most points at the end of the grid season, automatic wild card bid or buy or whatever you want to call it, into the international major, which is sick. I still love that concept. The one thing that bugs me is tiebreakers for a major and a world championship qualification spot. In the event of a tie for a major or world championship qualification spot, one best of 5 match will be played amongst the teams tied. So you're telling me that after all is said and done, after everything, after all these teams compete for months, matches after matches, everything is on the line, they play one best of 5. That is it. I understand both sides to this. Over everything said and done, consistency shows that you two are the same. So why not just, at the flip of a coin, give it to one of you? Because if you are still tied at the end of all of this, it's anybody's game. And it rewards the team that shows up on that day, which I think is kind of a cool situation. At the same time, I hate that it's a best of 5. If this was a best of 7, I don't think I would have any problems with it. Players will always agree that stuff that is super important when it comes to qualifications, brackets, you name it, a best of 7 should be the way that it's handled. So this is where Gibbs talked about it being similar to Major League Baseball. I personally don't watch Major League Baseball. For seeding purposes in a major or world championship, ties between 2 or more teams will be determined in this order. Team with the best head-to-head match winning percentage during this current split. So first it goes by split. So whoever's winning the current split. After that, if it's still tied by the split, then we go based upon the entire season because they want most recent results, not stuff that was 6 months ago. I don't care how well G2 did right after Season 9. I want to know in the past 2 months how they've been playing, and it's been butt cheeks. So therefore, that result is weighed more heavily. Makes sense. After going through the match winning percentage, it then jumps over to game individual head-to-head, split to RLCS entire season, just like the previous. And if it's still tied after all of that, and I think this is probably the best thing, is that they are trying to reward the most recent. So it talks about how whatever team finishes the best in the most recent segment, followed by the next until the tie is broken. So they don't want to base it off of just one result, but they want to do it off the previous 2 and the most recent. They need to reward the teams that are playing the best right now, not in the past, which is a really big deal based upon how many matches these guys are going to be playing. It also, again, still continues to reward consistency. So actually really big fan of these tiebreakers. Shout out to Gibbs. He is the one that came together with a lot of this. So if you guys haven't watched his video, I do recommend going and watching it. Pretty much everything else in here is the exact same about like the actual official rules in game. Things that I as a tournament organizer follow, like what stadiums are allowed, where they have to be played on, what server, how many players, what fields they can use, the hosting colors, all those types of things. But the big thing that I want to get to is how the rosters actually file out. As a previous way this worked, you guys have heard me talk about this numerous times. In the RLCS, there used to be a rule called the 2/3 rule. And what it means, as a final time to talk about it, because it's old now, is that you were considered a starter if you played at least 50% of your matches. So if there was 9 matches in the RLCS, you had to play at least 5 of them to be considered a starter. In order to keep your roster spot in the RLCS from season to season, you had to have at least 2 of your 3 starters remaining on the team. That was put in place so players had a little bit of protection when roster changes came to be, to where, yes, you can get rid of one player, but at least 2/3 of your roster, 2/3 rule, is sticking around in order to remain in the RLCS. That way you can't just see a ton of different rosters with brand new names every single time, even though we technically already do see that. What is changing now is based upon how the deadlines and what are called trade windows are actually happening. During the entire season, so out of the 9 months this will all break down, for RLCS 10 or RLCS X, you can do a trade during October 20th to November 1st, and you can do a trade from February 23rd to March 3rd. Those are the only times you are able to change your roster. I can tell you right away, these dates right here, trade window 1 and 2, on this YouTube channel, on my Twitch, on my content, are going to be wild. Because all the craziness that we just saw during the offseason, all the frustrations, all the issues, the wanting to get rid of a player and picking up another player who's available, and all this giant domino effect, why I spent 35 minutes yesterday talking about all these different players swapping from here to there and this and that, you have to figure out in 2 weeks. And that's with scrims, making sure that it's the right player, the one you want to stick with, because you are stuck with them moving forward for the next, 4 months, 3 months, and like 3 weeks. Like, it's a long time for these players. That's a full season of Rocket League that if you don't like it, too bad. You got 2 weeks to figure it out. Thing that has traded, though, during this time is that teams may only make 1 addition to their roster, obviously excluding the manager and coach, provided that the maximum numbers of played on each team is 4. But there's some interesting stuff in here. So during the trade windows, you can only have a max roster of 4. That is 3 players and a sub. Does not include manager and coach. That's a separate thing that you can mix and match whenever you need to, from the sounds of it. But this one's pretty crazy. So if you decide to make use of both trade windows, so say during this time period, a team swaps out a different player, and then again in this time they swap out another player, they forfeit their current point totals and will become an inactive team, which means they are no longer getting those buys. They are going to have to sign up officially and go through open qualifiers, and are essentially having to form a new team under a new name. So to put that in perspective, in the past, we had an RLCS season. It usually went from March, February time until June, July. That was an RLCS season. We had a crazy off season. Stuff would get all crazy. And then after 2-3 months of that, we'd go into August, September, and we'd have another RLCS season. So that would be like the difference between season 7, season 8, or season 8, season 9. You can make trades during that time, 2/3 rule like I talked about earlier. But now if a team was to make a trade in the off season between season 7 and season 8 and another transfer from season 8 to season 9, they would no longer be an RLCS team. So you are forcing essentially these teams to have 1 trade over the course of 9 months. You guys are going to finally, as fans, be able to follow all the chaos that is roster trades. And I'm so happy. The teams that will remain at the top are going to have consistent rosters for the first time in Rocket League history, for the first time in the 4 years that Rocket League Esports has existed. And I am so happy. I can't tell you how frustrating it is for me to get new friends, new family, whoever it is, and try to break down some of these teams and be like, okay, well, this team used to be this team, but they were picked up by this roster that used to be this org, and that player used to be on that org, but now he's over here because he left this team and didn't get along with this kid, but so now he's over, and it's just like this weird spider-webbed version of players that just won't be able to happen. Like, you just can't do it because you forfeit too much. All the work that you're putting forward in the previous point systems, in the previous splits, to wash that away that's a big incentive to stick together. So I love that. I really, really enjoy that. It also provides a little bit of security for the players too. Big reason Psyonix, I assume, wants to do that is so we don't have players playing in the first couple of splits, big roster transfers, and then we get to the World Championship, and the players that helped get you there in the beginning are no longer part of the team. They want to avoid that. They want to give you a storyline that develops from the beginning of the year to the end of the next year. So I think that's a really big deal, and I do like that. I think subs are a big deal, and this is kind of the thing people have been talking about a lot, is I think subs also apply to that rule. So if you have a sub on your team that gets picked up by another team, you're essentially stuck with those 3 players. I do think that for this, they should allow a kind of a subsection. So it should be like 3.35B or 3.35A or however the heck they would do it. But they should have a subcategory in here talking about if subs get traded, and they classify subs a little bit differently than starting rosters. I think they should do that and allow 2 trades in that sense, because it does make it very difficult with subs. If teams want to pick up a different player, it kind of penalizes them for having subs getting picked. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. So I could possibly see academy teams, not official, where players that are subs get put on an academy team and just practice and train together, and then have the ability to kind of be groomed and move up in the future. But again, Rocket League is about to get crazy. I've been saying it's a new era of Rocket League moving forward. The rest of this is just pretty simple stuff. Talks about the prize pool breakdown and how things are going to work. It's $100,000 obviously for every regional event, so that is $300,000 that's coming down. If you end up winning all 3 in the first split, I mean, you're talking $90,000. That's pretty slick. They are having to pay out quite a bit here in the 17-23 area, just because there's so many teams that tie in the bracket in that area. So that is a lot of money sunk into the bottom 7 or the bottom 16 teams, because there's 32 total. I would have liked this to kind of pump up a little bit more into the top. Personally, I like rewarding the ones that are performing the best. But at the same time, the benefit of breaking it down is the teams that are still trying to remain competitive still get a little bit of prize money, which incentivizes them to continue to compete and take this seriously as a career. So again, that's the benefit of bringing in a open qualifier and having a bunch of teams, is it does feed the lesser and allows them and incentivizes them to grind harder. You're also possibly going to see a bunch of tier B, tier C type of organizations pick up teams in this area that show up consistently. So again, more and more getting involved. New era. It's going to be a new era, I'm telling you. Breakdown of the prizing as well for the grid. That's the $10,000 weekly tournaments that are happening. 4,500. So yeah, this is more similar to what I'm used to for the prize pool. So big, almost double compared to second place. Again, they have to give, because there is no third place match. It's a tied third, fourth place spot, 1,500 apiece. I would have loved for this to be 1,000 and then take that extra 1,000 and go and put that here. So if it was up to me, it'd be 5,500 for first, 2,500 for second, and then 1,000 for third, fourth. That's how I personally would handle it. That's how I've done the Brawl 10K in the past. Another crazy video, guys, with a lot of information, but that should handle pretty much the major rules and the major things to point out for RLCS 10 moving forward, or RLCS X, whatever the heck you want to call it. But if you guys do have additional questions, comments, concerns, drop those down below, as well as hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss out on the best Rocket League news videos. That is going to do it for me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll catch you next time. Peace.